I just stack half the hours.
Let's get started.
I just stack half the hours. She keep it lit and enlightened. She just be fighting the vibe. Open your eyes. Matter of fact, open your thighs. Sorry, not one of those guys. Maybe let's talk cause I'm shy. I just want to see in your mind. You know I know it's that time. I need advice. Maybe just changing my life. I swear that women's my vice. Men up from Mars. He tripping. I put that on guard. I got the digits, but I am not calling. Wizard at night. This be that forum. I'm just gonna stack with that. Sunshine after that.
After hours.
Just gonna stack with that. Sunshine after that. So yeah, you know, I had a conversation with her, but it's like the signals is always crossed. I mean, like, I say yes, cause she asked me to say yes. And then she's like, I didn't want you to say yes. I wanted you to understood that a yes was required to answer the question. I was like, what?
Welcome to the spot, the Stacked After Hours spot. I am your host, Natalie Cosby, and welcome to the show for Grown Folks Talk. And it is March, y'all, March 1st. And as we always do, we have some kind of theme. We've been talking about Black history. Black history is over, self care. This time we're going to talk a little bit about introspection and self reflection in love and life. So tonight we have our first conversation around this theme, and the title is Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. Who is the most introspective of them all? So tonight, get y'all's cocktails, get your questions, your comments, because we want to hear what y'all got to say. So let's bring in my sunshine. There he goes. There he does. There he does. Woo! So, Anthea, how you
Yes.
doing?
Ah,
How you doing?
I am fine, girl. I am fine. I mean, we had that homework. We had to ask
Yes, we did.
friends or exes about us.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's funny because we were thinking about it, it's just like how do we talk about self-reflection and introspection and what we see and what do others see in us that we may not be aware of. And I was like, the only way we can do that is have folks ask somebody that they're close to, preferably partner, but maybe close friend, family member, so on and so forth. What do they see? And there were really six basic questions, but them motherfuckers were triggering at times,
Girl, they
right?
went, some people went deep,
They did. Some people kept it surface.
very surface, like one word answer, nothing, nothing, whatever.
Right.
Um, so the first one, so pretty much overall for me, I kind of expected worse. And and when I look in the mirror, I see a little bit worse than what people gave me. So I'm wondering, based on who I asked, were they giving me the answers that they believe I wanted to hear?
Hmm.
Um, and so that perhaps has a bigger meaning to it, right? Because it's probably myself looking in the mirror and being even harder on myself than I really should be. And
Yeah.
so maybe I'm not as bad as I thought I really was.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I asked a couple of people who have been in my life, my sister, clearly, and I mean family members and current relationships and friendships. And what was really interesting is I wasn't surprised, but
Right.
people went deep. I was like, oh, y'all gonna go deep on me right now. And I was
So,
like, yeah. And I
yes.
was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. I was like, they really like some people dig deep. Some and even not even though people didn't go deep, there were things I was just like, ooh,
What's
yeah.
one of the questions that you
I think that last question, that what do you see in me that I'm not aware of? I'm
Mm,
unaware of that you may. And one of the things that came across was, and I think some people said that I may appear insensitive, or I don't have emotions, or and I have always led with this I'm stoic thing, and I'm really not. I'm just really passionate, and I know my whatever. But when I heard what they said, I was like, wow. And I realized that that part of me irks certain people. And I was like, oh shit. And I was
right.
like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. That was a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, because it's also my shell. Like, it's the way I protect myself, but in the same token, I am thinking I'm open. I may not be as open as I think
Sorry.
I am. What'd you
Yeah.
say?
No, something fell from me.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah, but one of them is like pretty much like for me was you're petty. You can be petty sometimes, and when you're petty, it overshadows your strategic thinking, and then you
Mm,
more of a I want to win this battle versus the strategic thinking goes out the door. And that is true. Another one for me was, somebody was like, "You like to play dumb, but you ain't. There's nothing about you that's dumb."
that's true. Marilyn. Hey, Monique. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You're
Um,
not dumb at
so it
all.
wasn't just a lot of things that I kind of knew about myself, but I actually thought that some other things I am seeing in the mirror for me was things like I could be annoying, and I annoy myself sometimes. So I'm kind of shocked that nobody kind of called that out. And and I could be a little bit hard on myself, like I said earlier on, and a little bit of a perfectionist sometimes, depending on what it is situation that I'm in. And I could actually be a little bit judgmental too.
Mm, mm, yeah. It's interesting to kind of, I was like, and based on who it's coming from, it's like also their experience of you, right? So the good thing that I did like is that most of the responses were consistent. So my
Mm,
shadiness and my whatever else goes on with me is consistent. Like, I wasn't surprised, but it's when people put it in a way of how they're receiving it, that may be the sting versus, what you see in the mirror, right?
right, right,
Because
right.
that is what was interesting for me.
Yeah. I it was kind of like a wake up call as well too for the responses of who actually responded and who actually didn't respond, or who actually just kind of, to me, and maybe I'm overthinking this, the people that actually gave like the very vague one word or very vague answers to me kind of felt like they really didn't care about the relationship, you know.
And so, you know what I thought, because I also thought, I was like, but the people who gave the vague answers are probably also very close to you now. Does that make sense? Like, they may be in like a serious, they may not want to rock the boat. Because I thought about this, I got some vague answers too, and those are some of the people that are close to me, like really,
But
you know.
everybody that I asked is pretty much interacting with me on a regular basis. And when you say close, you mean like in a relationship?
They could be close. I mean, they could be, yeah, but it makes you look at the relationship. I don't necessarily know if the vague ones, for me, I don't necessarily know if the vague ones for me were those relationships where they didn't care, or they just don't like to talk about their feelings. They don't like to talk about those things. Like, those questions, if you really talked about, they were deep. So they're like, I don't want to necessarily, like, somebody told me this, like, you got to call me to talk about it. I was like, I don't have time to actually talk to you about it. But I realized that person just needed me to talk because they hadn't talked to me, and their shit was long as hell. I was like, oh,
True, because a couple of people did ask me to do them as well. Like, if I answer these questions for you, I need you to answer them for me. And in order for me to get them to answer, I had to answer. And I did my best to be as open, honest, and as objective as possible.
mhm.
Um, it wasn't based on if I like you or didn't like you or anything or length of relationship or anything like that. I really just wanted to give the most honest answer of how they either make me feel or how I feel based on their actions. So I made sure that I was very candid about that, and I was hoping that everyone would be. Um, it was funny. I like the exercise, Natalie. This is a great one.
I think it was good. I think, well, let's bring in our panel so they can talk about their experience with this. Montaigne, come on, let's bring them in. So I hope everybody got their cocktails tonight. So, ooh, we got some regulars back. We got Lenny Loke in the house. What's up, Lenny? We got Charlie Lou, the realist, the Mr. I Love the Way You Live. And then, of course, Lady Renee. Hey, Renee. So, y'all, we're going to dive right in. All of y'all been on the show. All y'all are living your best life or moving in that direction. So now that y'all kind of asked your friends these questions or your folks in your circle, what feedback did you get and what did you agree or disagree with? I'm gonna start with ladies first. Go on, Renee. Renee, I think you're on mute, babe.
So some things I was not surprised about. A few I was. I asked a mixture of people, my people that I've dated, even like a close coworker, and I like some of the consistent things were like, for example, for the first question, what did you think about me when you we first met? And a common answer was, I thought you were stuck up.
Mm.
So I wasn't surprised, but it still stung just a little bit. But on the reverse, on the other side of it, when you ask, well, what do you think about me now? All of them said, well, I realize you're not stuck up. You're actually really, really laid back and down to earth. So that was interesting. And most of them thought I was a good listener. They thought I offered really good conversation. Um, the one thing I guess I might have been a little bit surprised about was the overthinker part, because that was kind of consistent too. And they saw it as overthinking, and I just see it as dotting my I's and crossing my T's on things. So that was interesting how they perceive it versus what I think I'm doing or the way I'm coming across. Um, and a lot. Um, I always like on this show. I felt like I needed to be a better listener,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working on that. At least I thought I was. But a consistent thing that most of them said was they thought I was a good listener. So I was surprised because I'm like, I feel like I need to listen more, but they thought I was a good listener.
Okay. All right. Charlie, you over there killing it. What what did your person say, Charlie?
Yeah, because it was a person because I didn't read the instructions.
That's okay, boo. That's okay. All right. All right. It's
But
okay. It's
it
okay.
was a good
Thank
one. So anyway, it was my best friend for over. We've been friends since what grade? 10th grade, and so it was really good to see And I guess basically, he said when he first met me, and I guess because we really haven't spoken to the audience about what the questions were. Do you
Oh,
want to?
so the first question is, you know
Yeah.
what, you're right. Let you thank you, Charlie, getting me organized, y'all. I'm just jumping right in. Thank you so much. The first question is, what did you think about me? Right. I think
Mhm.
that the actual question, I have to pull up the question. Sorry.
It was, what did you think about me when you first met me versus how do you think about me now?
Now, yeah,
Right, right. And
go ahead.
so that question was, he said, he said I was reserved. um,
What?
he thought
Really?
yeah, when he first met me,
Okay.
reserved, smart, um, easy breezy, like that. And now he sees me as abracadabra, kicking indoors, self-assured, fearless. What did he say? State my opinions. I always have an opinion on everything. Um, and so he just said, which leads into the second question, which is kind of like, I guess,
What has changed about you? What has changed about you?
it's just that he's seen my confidence grow over the years, as
Mm.
as a friend. Um, and then the third question
What are your best traits in our relationship?
is that he know I have my back. I have his back 100%,
I love
regardless
it.
of anything that happens in the relationship.
Let's go through the first three because we're gonna get into them other ones.
Yeah,
Because them other ones are interesting.
yeah,
Them last four, those are them trigger questions.
they are. Those are
Trigger
therapy
happy.
sessions. Those. He was like, "Oh, I think we need a little therapy
You
session."
do. You need a little therapy, don't you? I think I had to shed a tear today. All right, Lenny Lowe. First three questions. The
So,
first three questions. Go ahead. So
so
who well, you don't even have to, who did you speak? How many people did you speak to? And then
sad,
what were the first question?
sadly, I did not get around to asking the questions of anyone. So, error on my part. However, I'm confident in stating that I can answer the questions based upon, you know, a collective of people if I were to have asked those questions. And I'm
Okay, so what do you think they would say? What do you think they would say about number one?
so the first answer would be they found me to be unapproachable because I have a very stoic expression. And for whatever reason, I have like the little wrinkles right here in the middle of my eyes that kind of looks like a scowl. I get that naturally from my grandmother. And I'm not one just to walk around smiling all the time, so to someone who doesn't know me, you will look at me like, this dude is very, very unapproachable. He looks mad. He looks angry. He looks full of himself, which is the furthest thing from the case. So that's the first question.
I
They were
got that when I first met you.
okay. So
I
they were
did. I was like, ooh, okay. I'm like, who's this stank nigga? Look, high yellow, light skinned nigga who think his stuff don't stink.
see,
Go
is
ahead.
that it is exactly that. And clearly, I don't carry myself that way. It's just that's just the natural visual vibe that I get off.
Okay.
Once they are around me for a period of time, not even a long time, they'll realize I had this guy pegged wrong. He is not what I thought initially that he was. I'm a caring, funny guy. I like to engage in deep conversations. I'm not afraid to speak my truth when it may, interfere or hurt someone else's thoughts. It can be rough at times, but that's just who I am. And in terms of the third question, I believe was, where have I grown? Just
It's a, what has changed about you?
um, other than the fact that I'm a father and I don't want to say I've calmed down a little bit, but I have three daughters. So my perspective and my approach in life, being a father now, is totally different than it was when I was, in my early 30s, late 20s when I was, not a father. I was just hey, let's have a good ass time, let's go hard. But now when I have kids, you know, my responsibility is towards them. So I need to make sure that I move accordingly.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Number 4, y'all. And then we're going to start to unpack some more stuff. What are your challenges in the relationships for the people you spoke to? And Lenny, I'm going to talk to you about your closest relationships when you think about that question. So, Charlie, I'm going to have you go on and go first. What was the challenges with your friendship where you, because you said you needed therapy?
Uh, wait a minute. What did he say? What was the question?
It said, what were the it was number 4. What are your challenges in y'all's relationship? Or what have been the challenges?
Oh, that was the little tricky because it was like, have there been challenges?
Charlie freeze.
With my best friend, it was like we've had disagreements, but nobody's trying to win, which is a good thing. But and then basically he said, well, he's always right. So I mean, at the end of the day,
You are
it was
always right, or he's always right?
he's always right. So he was just saying, our challenges in the relationship. It's funny because when you think about your best friend, and I thought about this thing, and I'm like, you know what, my best friend is really my best friend. Carl is like my brother that I didn't have growing
Right.
up. So, we fought early in our relationships, right? I mean, in our relationship as a friend, and figured it out and got to the point where that's my dude, that's my boy. I will do anything for him. So it was even really kind of hard to look at some of these questions and kind of look because even me and him were agreeing back and forth with each other. Like, it really gave us a chance to just talk present day time
Mhm.
about me and him. And
Right.
so that was a little rough. That question it was hard to answer because it really is, I don't really have any challenges.
Do you have any challenges with, what about you? Just, and I know I'm going off topic because you did not ask this. Because I was going to be like, I wanted you to ask one of your exes, Charlie.
That would have been good. That would have been good. Yeah,
I was like, I ain't ready to go there yet.
I know. I wish I saw this early. I mean, pay attention early. Sorry, but didn't, and so that would have been nice. But I think the thing is, and I've been on the show several times, and y'all know that I have really just been working on myself, and so
Right.
the people that I have in my life right now are people that are just like I've curated, and
Hmm.
I've worked intentional to have really solid and not toxic relationships with. Because I feel like there was this point in your life, why are you having a toxic relationship with anybody?
Yeah. And
Mm.
a lot of the responses I got was we don't really have any challenges per se. And I don't know if that's people being lazy or it's just, they
I
don't
don't think
really want
people
to
want,
talk
yeah.
about it. Huh?
I don't think people want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I
what
mean, I
what
just,
challenge what challenge do you have in your relationship right now, Natalie, with friends that or people that
I
you consider?
mean, my friend, like I said, one was just like, I don't show emotions, and it irks them. Like it was like a nerve wracking thing. They say I can also be insensitive, and I think the insensitive is really like judgy, and I'm sure I am, and so I try to work on that. I know, like none of the things that came up were whatever, but that was one of the, someone that's just like, you don't understand your power. That's a
Can
challenge that I see with you. Go ahead.
can I ask a question? The folks that this is to the panel, the people that you asked these questions to, were they your friends of the same sex, opposite sex, people that you have
Both,
relationships with, or both, or
both,
both.
both for
So
me.
for me, I asked a coworker. I asked uh, the other 3 were guys, and one was a past relationship, and the other 2 were people who are currently around.
Right.
So, and the one from the past relationship was from like 10 years ago, who still kind of mills about. And the other two were people I've known from when I was younger, but I didn't have any kind of like interest kind of situation with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I asked.
Mm.
And,
What was the thing that they said that you got on their nerves with?
so it varied, right?
Uh-huh.
So the one from who's been around, who
The one
about
you
the
have
whole
relations,
10-year thing.
the one you have relations with.
Exactly. Exactly.
Look, that's why I was like, I should have told y'all.
I mean, what we saying, Renee? I mean, come
Well,
on.
because it was the only one I did, right? So it was because I see where Lenny was going with it, because as I was asking the questions from different people, they had a different direction on how they wanted to answer the question. So the one who the relations happened with, he was like, the challenge is you don't understand. I'm a man's man. And you, right? That's a challenge. You don't get that. And I need to be in a certain place where I can fully take care of you and this and that. And I'm like, Lord, this is going so left.
Girl,
but I had to let him say what he needed to say. But his thing was, I don't fully understand. I'm not getting him when he says that he needs to be in a place where he can maintain the lifestyle he wants to maintain and still be able to handle a wife. I'm like, okay. I just wrote it down.
At the end of the day, what he said, to translate for the man, he basically stated, like all men, a lot of men, which a lot of women don't get sometimes because they overlook it. I want to be financially secure to be able to take care of you the way I want to take care of you.
I totally got it. I thought we were past that conversation, but it really is a sore point for him. So that was that. The other two, nothing has transpired physically. So of course they said, both of them said, oh, I'm lying. One said there was no challenge. The other one, and I'm going to read this. So he said, your challenges to the relationship. You have concerns about any intimacy that can happen without any real meaning other than just being intimate. That was the challenge he said we had.
So he doesn't feel like that you can be intimate and be your true self.
No. I'm saying that I don't want to engage in any kind of coitus unless this is going somewhere.
Oh,
Okay.
That's what that was about.
He want to hit it.
Pretty much.
Well, men don't know how to be friends unless they smash it.
Or they smashed after and they want to be friends?
They can do that too, but the bottom line is it's very hard. There was an article, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, now being 56 and seeing it with guy friends of mine, that men don't have friends as they get older, and men need friends. And so what they tend to do is they befriend a woman. They like, and it's a friend, they start out having casual conversations. And then what tends to happen, the conversation goes into the direction where he's been vulnerable to that particular woman. And as opposed to just keeping it as a friend, he wants to smash.
Mm.
We
serious.
were talking about this last week on the show in the after party, and just like how sometimes we meet a girlfriend and we're like, oh my gosh, she'll be so cool to hang out with. Sometimes women meet a guy that's like so cool that you want to just hang with them. You really don't have any sexual desires or anything like that. And there's always a struggle for the guy to just be like, okay, I'll be her friend. It's there's obviously truth to that article or some truth to it, because
it was an interesting article for me.
It's hard to just get a friend and be like, I just want to hang with you. Can we just hang out, go to the movies, go to have drinks, and not have any sexual relationship?
I agree. I think that, well, I agree with what both of you have said. I believe that I believe that a man and woman can actually be great platonic friends and still have visual, physical attraction to one another. However, that line would not be crossed unless both of them decide to make that happen. Will there be some flirtatious comments along the way? Sure, now it depends on how you actually receive that. If a guy is complimenting his friend saying, hey, you look really nice, or just something that's very flirtatious or vice versa, that shouldn't be received as an automatic entry or a sign that they're trying to get with me or something like that. So I believe that having friends of the opposite sex can be extremely beneficial because you can then have conversations with those people and get, an honest assessment from the opposite sex that you may not necessarily get from having with your significant other or your spouse. You know what I'm saying? Because, if your spouse has an issue with you, right, they just may want to go to their friend of the opposite sex and say, look, what the hell is going on with these dudes? Yada, yada, yada. I want this from him. I want that from her, or whatever case may be. But you can't say that most people won't say that to their significant other because there's going to be some backlash and then arguments, and no one's going to hear exactly what is being communicated.
Somebody said, is it based on opinion or like these? So all these responses that you guys got, it's basically it's their experience of you in y'all's relationship, correct? But it's also their opinions and their feelings and the hurt and all those other things that you may not have even been aware of. And I guess that's kind of our final question. Some of the things that they saw that you possibly weren't even aware of in your current relationships, and and I'm gonna start with Lenny because I know, have people ever kind of told you like, do you understand that you do this or you do that, and were you aware of it or not?
It depends on what that thing is. If they bring it to my attention and I take the time to think about it and say, you may be right. But then again, it could be some situation in which I'm saying, well, I get where you're coming from. However, that wasn't my intention. I believe you're reading more into it than it really is. So I think it's a case by case situation, really.
Been anything that you were unaware of that made you be like, I need to not adjust, but I do that, or I am. What was it?
I may have to get a drink on that one and and let it come in, because right now I can't think that there's anything that I do that isn't intentional in some way. Ooh, dog, get away. I don't know how to answer that question right now.
Charlie,
Get her off of that.
What's the question? Yes.
The final question was like something that you are unaware of.
That they are unaware of.
That you were unaware of that affected y'all's relationship. I think that's like the final question. Something it said, could you tell me one thing that you've noticed about me that you are unaware of? That was the final question for your friend.
That I'm sensitive. Believe it or not.
You don't know that you're sensitive?
I know it. A lot of people don't. It was very interesting because I was feeling very overwhelmed right around my birthday in January. And I went to a dinner with my friends. They took me to dinner. And so I was telling them about my day and how I was feeling and how, I lost my parents and how, I needed to tap into that older wisdom, and I was like, who do I have? And then I realized this woman in my life, we call her Mom P, my best friend's mother. She happened to pass, not the mother, my best friend passed, but her mother is living. And so she's kind of like my second mom. So I called her up and I just, started talking to her, and she just, basically quoted me some scriptures. And she said, you know what, you're about to embark on some change. I noticed about you. I can tell, how you are based on who I know you are, and change don't come easy and change doesn't come overnight. And you know this. Stop trying to do everything in one day, yada, yada, yada. And it was just like a calming and a peace. And I started sharing that. So I started sharing that conversation that I had with the group that I was with. And people see me so with this, they think I have such a hard exterior that when I do start to talk about me and I just start getting vulnerable, people want to shut me down. And they don't want to hear me being human, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So they want me to always be standing proud and, being that self-confident dude. But I think what people don't understand is being a man, you show all emotions. There's not one emotion that I show. I'm going to be real with you 100%. I got to be free. And once I got to this freedom and understand what freedom meant, it means expressing who you are at all times. But what it also means too, you have to be careful who you express that with. And there was that one person at that dinner table that I know that I can't be vulnerable with going forward, because she wants to make sure that I keep this hard. She wants to see me like this, one way, hard, all the time, never vulnerable.
Yeah, I can relate to what Charlie is saying on that aspect. I think like probably within like the past 2 years, I've gotten to that point of saying, okay, I need to stop placing so much concern and care towards everyone else and really take a look at what is affecting me, because I was in a bad space, but no one ever knew it, right? Because whenever there would be a communication, people reach out to me, I'll reach out to them, whatever case may be in passing, I'm always like, yo, what's good? Yada, yada, yada. How's everything? Are you good? You good? You good? I'm like, yeah, they're good. No, they're not. So then we're engaging in conversation, right? Trying to solve the world's problem. What's going on with you? And when they would ask me, I would say, yeah, everything's cool, but it really wasn't. And it got to the point within, like I said, within like the past 2 years in which I finally said, you know what? Speak your truth. So when it was asked of me, hey, how's everything going? Are you okay? I'm like, no, actually it's not. So then the eyes get real big, like, whoa, wait, you always present yourself as if everything is fine. You're always so concerned about everyone else's well-being. I never had any idea that whatever it is that you're going through because, we kept it in the shell, because to Charlie's point, we needed to present ourselves as the strong men. And then you needed to be careful about who you allowed yourself to be vulnerable to, because they may not have the skills to sit down and listen and say, okay, let me turn me off for a little bit. Let's work this thing out with you. And that's a huge struggle. So that's Charlie, I feel you on that one, bro. And today,
that right there, that right there, if people would slow down and listen to when your man friend is talking to you and being real with you at that moment, will just do the human race and our race, especially in our community, so much. It would just be better, because you when you go out here in this world and you're trying to, going back to Renee's guy who is trying to be the financial, who's trying to, saying, I want to present myself to you, but I want to present myself the best self to you. He's doing everything that he can possibly do. It's killing him that he can't financially give you what he wants to give you. And yeah, you might know that, but you don't really know that.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to understand this when you're walking around with $1,200 shoes on the regular, and
Okay,
you're
now I can't do that.
$250. Like, so to me, it's a little bit hard to swallow. Like, I don't get this.
I
So,
get it. Okay.
but I hear
That-
you. I understand I understand the point you are making,
Yeah.
and what the point he is making, but his actions don't match up to what he is
Maybe
saying.
he wants the $1,200 shoes plus.
Yes, that's exactly what he wants. That's what he
Okay.
said. But to me,
Being able to
it's
pay for
where's
your
your value?
pants.
Where's your value?
He doesn't
So,
want
Wanye, what was some of the things you were unaware of? Because I'm really curious about what they pointed out for you.
Well, it depends on who was asked,
Okay,
right?
so go ahead.
Let's go with the dude that was smashed.
The 1,200, I call him 200, I call him $20,000 man, right? So
You so wrong.
Why he got to be the $20,000 man?
Because
I don't even want to go down that road.
As he walks around, I'm like, what is going on?
Go ahead.
I'm going like, whatever. Anyway, so he kind of went off of what it was because he was plugging himself, but he said, he called me back. He says, the one thing that you are unaware of, and it's supposed to be about me, but he's like, you don't know how much I love you. So I'm like, okay. So that's one. The second person said that I tend to run my story past a few people before making a decision. The third person said that I don't give myself enough credit, which kind of is in line with what the second person said. And then the last person, pretty much you don't. No, there was nothing with the last person on that one. But what I took from it was, like, I am always about the team effort. And I don't know if it's because of my job or I'm all about, like, let's just kumbaya. So I never like throw myself in front of something to be like, look at me, I did this. So I can understand the statement about me not giving myself enough credit. And then what I said earlier about always wanting to make a right decision. Like, I am a turtle when it comes to making a decision, because I want to make sure I have considered all the possibilities.
Why can I vision your head sticking out of a shell? Like seriously.
Like I've always tiptoe through bigger decisions because I need to make sure I have a scenario ready for, I have a solution ready for every scenario. But they see it that way. So this is what their responses were.
So I can relate to tiptoeing around making decisions. I've been told countless times that I'm an overthinker. It's like
they said that
sometimes I will think myself out of making a decision because I'm so concerned about, believe it or not, the well-being of others that may be impacted by that decision, versus saying, yo, I've reached this point in my life. I need to make this decision for me. Be damn what everyone else thinks. It's now time for me. But even with that, I'm still, have reservations, and I move slow, and I think. And I may talk to several different people, and, I may get a 50-50 split. I may get a 70-30 split, or whatever the case may be. But it feels good to me in knowing that I've taken the time not to make a knee-jerk reaction, especially when a decision doesn't need to be made at that specific point in time.
And yeah, that's me. And I also, like, when I'm talking to you about something, I'm not asking you, what would you do? I'm not saying, what should I do? I'm talking about the scenario and getting your feedback on the scenario. And then based on all the different feedback I get, I will say, okay, let me see how I can come up with the best solution for whatever I'm trying to do. But I'm never really on so what do you think I should do? Because I'm going to do what I want to do anyway, but I'm going to do it equipped with enough information to make the decision that's best for me.
Right. And I think it's best to ask people who have been in that position of the question that you're looking for.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I mean, if you're thinking about traveling to Cambodia or something like that, don't
Mhm.
ask someone who's never been as far as Miami, what your thoughts are, the pros and cons, and how to move about Cambodia or something like that, because you're not going to get the answer. I mean,
Right.
that's just one example, but I think you kind of get where I'm coming from. Some of these major decisions that we make in life, it's best to consult with people who have already been in that position so they can say, here's something to think about. I'm gonna lay it all out now. You have all the information, or as much information as I can give to you, plus you've collected from other people. You're now in a position to make the best decision for you.
Yeah. So,
And to me, it sounds like your questions are more, Lenny, your questions are more for informational purposes, not necessarily you have doubt. It's more for assurance of I am making sure that I dot my I's and cross my T's type.
That, and if I do have doubts, that information that's being obtained may possibly, cure that doubt. Right.
yeah.
Because
So,
yeah.
yeah. So for number 6, for me was there was a number of feedback that I got, which I wasn't kind of surprised by. One of them is that I cut off people sometimes whenever I have a new thought in my head, and that's true. I told you guys I have low attention span, so that happens from time to time. One person also asked about why do I use humor so much? Is it a coping mechanism? Because I kind of reflect a lot with humor.
Oh. Mhm.
Um, there was another one that says that uh, my dear girlfriend, who's a mutual friend of ours, Lenny, she was very nice enough to do that for me, and also talked about the fact that if something crazy happens, like I will repeat it all day, all day, all day, so everybody gets tired of it to hear the story over and over. But there was one feedback that actually stuck out for me that I really wanted to read here, and it says, "Your sub um, your subconscious fear of releasing yourself to a new and fresh start without walls. That is one of the things they notice about me that I'm unaware of." And yes, I'm unaware of that.
Do you think that's the case? Now that information was shared with you and you've had the time to think about it, do you agree with it?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm confused by it, because I feel like um, there may be some fear of releasing myself to new idea. I mean, being single and you're trying to date again and you're not sure about who's out there. There's a lot of walls that I put up. I know that can be barriers to moving towards the next step in a relationship. So it's probably something that I haven't been aware of or I've been displaying, but didn't really think about it before this person said that. And
You
this
should
is a coworker of
you
mine.
should you should ask 5 other people that same question. Ask them the answer that was given to you, and ask them if they see that in you.
It was funny. I sent this out to some other friends. It's like, don't send me anybody else's answers because I want to see what I see. Because there may be something, I think there's things that we hide, not even hide about ourselves, but we're so unaware that we're just like, you do that. And you don't even realize, like, because it's become so habitual, it's like certain things. It's like the whole like I think I'm emotional, but I realize I'm internally emotional. It does not show because I'm kind of like Charlie. I'm very sensitive, and when my emotions are released, it's a beast for me. So it's like, how do I covet that and be in spaces where I know I'm safe and so on and so forth. And this was somebody that was with my family, and somebody else told me that as well. But I was like, I can see that, but I grew up in a very stoic household.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I think that happens a lot with Black families that we don't necessarily talk about. It's
Are
like,
you the baby?
I'm the baby girl.
Mm,
I have two younger brothers, but I was the youngest for a very long time.
okay, so you the knee baby, as they call.
Yes.
That
I'm
mean?
like,
Where
exactly.
he come from?
Right. Like, hey, I'm the last one.
right, right,
Almost 8 years later.
right.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought about that because I was just like, who's answering, who's responding, and how does it, does it, and I think certain things, it's just like the good thing about the unaware question is just like it really forced me to like really reflect on our relationship. Like, was part of it projection? Was part of it
Right.
real? Because part of it, like, I think Lenny said earlier, you got to turn yourself off to give somebody, not turn yourself off, but kind of like pull back so you can really share the experience you have for that person, and I think that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like the guy, the $20,000 guy, I'm going to ask him these questions again. And I'm going to ask him to turn himself off. Like, really think about what I sent you. Because he kind of made it all about him and how he's feeling about not
That's
getting.
why you're not with him, Renee.
Well, yeah.
I mean, Renee, I can just tell you from you call him the $20,000 man, and what he has a lot that he wants to express with you, but he doesn't feel like he's being seen or heard. But he's also too dealing with the fact of he's trying to present himself in a way, and maybe that's why he's showing up in $1,200 shoes. But then at the end of the day, he still is a man trying to be a man who wants to support you, but yet he is a man that lives in today's society that wants to floss. So he's a little, twisted in where he's coming and going.
I think I mean, he's self-admittedly said he has some self-esteem issues. So, and I know that's what that's all about. But I mean, he's older than me, right? So we're in our 50s. So at what point do you say, okay, and I've been, as long as I've known him, I've never.
But some people still are working on themselves and developing themselves, and maybe he's just a person that really needs to. This is because you said he made it all about him. This was the first time somebody asked him questions about, but he interpreted it about him. But even though he made it about him, but it was about you, but it gave him a chance to communicate. Brother is having a problem being able to communicate. And I with him, he really likes you. I can tell you that. He likes you hands down. Yeah, he might be twisted with his presentation and about, getting his values straight and everything like that. But maybe that's where you can help him out. And if you seem like you kind of like him because you still around.
No, okay. In all honesty, I had deleted his number and I went back to the trash bin on my phone because I was trying to think of who can I get I thought I can get like some real feedback from the past that I actually dealt with. So I brought him back from the trash and sent him the questions. He didn't know he got trashed. It was like 4 days ago. So
did you trash him up again?
No, he knows now. If he don't know, he knows now. Lord Jesus.
She likes that.
So, I'm over it, but I do value some of the things that he says. I do feel like it's very one-sided a lot of times, but I just wanted to see what he thought. And I mean, he's stuck.
So Renee, those may not be $1,200 shoes. Those may be the knockoffs. Just FYI.
They're not. When I'm with him and Louis Vuitton is calling him to say, "Hey, we have a special showing. Would you like to come?" No, they're not the knockoffs.
Yeah, his priorities are messed up. But
yeah.
So here's the deal with communication, right? I mean, everyone says just communicate with me. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me share. when you get to the core of it, communication, as simple as it should be, can be very, very difficult, right? Because there are going to be some moments in which someone is going to tell you something that you don't want to hear or you don't like what you're hearing because you don't want to accept it, right? Someone can tell me whatever it is that they don't like about me, or they say that I do that irks them, or whatever the case may be, and I could have completely overlooked it, right? But until I decide to say, okay, let's talk about this. I'm going to hear you. I want you to be honest with whatever you're saying to me, and I have to receive it. And if I need clarification on it, then let's continue to talk about it so that I have a better understanding. But, you know, people hate to, I don't want to say hate, people, you know, they take exception when someone says, you know, do you know that you do this? And when you do this, it really annoys me. That's a very tough thing to say to someone. But if you care for that person and that person cares for you, I would like to think that it needs to be heard and addressed. Because if not, you're just going to be floating around. You're going to be rolling your eyes at the person.
People be in their feelings, Corey. They do.
Feelings,
you know what happens?
Feelings, and it shouldn't be that way.
Right. But you know what happens? When you start communicating, you start asking questions, you don't know what's triggering the person, right? So you don't know what happened in that person's life, and you don't know what makes them go off or shut down, or because I mean, I was in a relationship where a person just used to shut down and be like, well, I'm just trying to communicate with you. Boom. It would just be like there was you couldn't go any further from there. So I think you have to sometimes double back and realize that, like somebody said in the chat, communication can solve so much. It's true, communication can solve so much. However, a lot of people don't know how to do it.
Right. And I think at some point, you know, if they start wigging out, you have to get to the point like, look, man, you know, what the fuck? What's wrong? What did I do? What did I not do? You know, if I say this, if I say that, you're reacting in this particular way, and I have no idea what's causing it.
Right.
I mean, what is the trigger? Let me know so that I can now figure out the best way not to present that, or not to say that, or not to do that. But if I'm asking you what's going on and you keep saying nothing, well, guess what? I'm gonna continue to do exactly what the fuck it is I've been doing.
Right.
But I think some you have to own your own. Like, so you can tell me you have an issue with something, but sometimes I feel that when you're giving the person the opportunity to express what the problem is, by them expressing, they have to own their role in why you're probably responding the way you respond, and they're not ready to deal with that. So It's easier just to shut down and say, I'm not gonna talk about it, because then we gotta really talk about it.
Right.
And they don't really want to talk about it.
Right.
Yes.
And that is always the hardest thing when you're in a relationship and you're trying to grow with somebody, and then the person don't want to talk. You're like, is this how we're gonna do everything in this relationship? Is this the way it's gonna be, or am I gonna always be the one asking the questions and not getting the answers? Or if I ask the question and you don't give me an answer, how long do I have to wait to find out what it was that just triggered you, so then therefore we can get past it? And that is so frustrating.
Well, I think this also comes back to somebody's like self-reflection after the relationship. You need self-reflection within the relationship. Like, it needs to I always like, is the conversation sometimes continuing because it does not have an endpoint? Because you are still reflecting and processing and understanding what is going on? Or is it just like, I'm going to dead it because it's uncomfortable and I don't want to talk about it anymore, but it's the issue's still there? Or who you're being, and you can't change how people how they love you. You can change if you want to stay there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, how do I self-reflect or be introspective so I can continue to make this, if I want to be in this, let's say, relationships, because I feel like that's when we always have like a major point when we have a change in our life, that some people self-reflect and some people blame.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a problem for me at this point in time in my life, at this age, if I'm in a relationship with somebody who's not introspective and who is not trying to better themselves and just going to shut down. Because I'm like, look, I ain't got but so many years left on this planet. I ain't got time to be sitting here waiting on you to try to figure this shit out. I mean, are you going to be the person that wants to reflect and look back and get the help so you can move on? Or you still want to be the person that want to be stuck and deal with this stuff and still let it just hold you captive and not be free? And I think once you get your wings, it's hard to cap them. And when you get free and when you out here communicating with people and you can be just like, okay, we're going to talk about it. And, you know, like right now, it might not be the best time, but let's talk later tonight. We can get back to the conversation and then have that conversation and be like, okay, so this is what happened. This is why I was triggered. This is what went down in my life. So you will know, because it goes back to like what they call it, the love language. What, you know, how do you be loved and stuff like that. So, you know, when you're getting to know somebody, you need to know those things and what's going to trigger you. If you're not coming to the table, opening yourself up at this point in time in your life, then why the hell are you saying that you want to be in a relationship?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
To me, if you want to be in a relationship, or relationships mean you got to be vulnerable, you have to communicate, you got to be open, you got to work on yourself, and you got to build with the partner that you got across the table looking at you.
And you got to be able to say, I'm sorry.
Exactly. And if you're not ready to do all of that,
yeah, and even outside of relationships and friendships as well too, there's some people that are better at giving feedback, but when it comes to them taking the feedback, honestly, they have an issue with it. And so you know, sometimes we see it where people react poorly to someone saying something as simple as, I don't like your glasses. How dare this person say they don't like my glasses, blah, 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 blah. So what that does is it stops you from ever telling that person how you really feel about them, because they get so annoyed at the small petty things.
But I don't know if see, that's the whole thing. Like, is it really petty? Because there's still that backstory, right? So in my head, I'm like, the audacity for you to tell me, even though something simple, you don't like my glasses, and I'm looking at you and you can't see. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like you have to look up to your face like this. So how do you tell me? So and that's what I look at, and that's when I am going to shut down, and I'm not going to have this conversation about, well, why do you not like my glasses? Because at that point, I don't give two shits, because you need to work on your shit before you come at me.
Mm.
Right, but so yes,
That's
and
right
so
there.
go ahead. But my thing is, it's just like Renee, right? Are we always getting defensive when somebody gives us feedback that is maybe honest, and it may it'll trigger something, because it may be something that's dormant in us that we're not even aware of. We think it's dormant, but it's not.
If your unsolicited feedback, your unsolicited comment is not adding any value when discussed to this situation, then the hell with you. I am probably going to get slightly defensive. But if I see value in what you're saying to me, and I'm looking at the entire picture as best as I could to see where value can come from this, then I'm likely going to be more open to it. But again, when I feel like you're being judgmental,
but Renee, I'm not talking about
your
somebody
backstory.
Right. But I'm not talking about somebody who's judgmental. You're having a conversation with somebody and they're trying to work through some things with you, right? Because I feel like this is when it comes up. You're trying to work through some things. You're going through thoughts you're talking about a situation, and they may ask a question. You're like, don't get mad at me when I ask this question. If you are that sensitive, you probably will be triggered and all these other things because it's like they're like these are the things I see that you're doing, right? Especially with somebody who's constantly blaming others and they're not necessarily always looking at themselves.
And I'm gonna tell you something right now, Ronnie. If you come up to me and you got a wig on, I'm gonna ask you why you got it on.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go down the road of. Let's. I want to switch it up because I think the thing that my friend told me, he was like, we have disagreements. Nobody in our relationship, nobody's trying to win.
Right.
And so
Right.
if you partner with
Exactly.
someone, the bottom line is I'm trying to I might have a disagreement with the way you present that or the way you went about doing something. But I'm not trying, but and I'll just let you know. But the bottom line is I'm not trying to, if you're a partner with somebody, you want to win. You aren't trying to win. You just got a disagreement at that point in time. And it's like, oh, okay. That's
Right.
you see it. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. But at the end of the day, it doesn't break anything. It's when my situation was when I was talking about when you're trying to communicate with someone and they don't want to be open to communicating. And so therefore you can never get past something because it always comes up. And so you're saying to yourself, well, are we going to ever be able to have a conversation about the thing that's triggering you or the thing that you don't want to talk to so we can get through this and get past this? Because I don't know what it is. You're not sharing. And so how do we resolve this? You know? And so that's why I said I need to be in a relationship with someone who wants to resolve the small things or even and of course the big things, but also to understand how to talk to each other, you know, because there is a language of when you're in a relationship of, you know, there's insecurity language that comes out and you're like, ooh,
Right.
that's not what I'm looking for. And then there's conversation of, you know, I noticed that when you do XYZ, 1, 2, 3 happens. Is there something that we need to discuss? So I
So,
think
Charlie,
it's a
if
maturity in your conversation on how you try to elevate the conversation to get to a point where we can all resolve things and not be in this low level, low hanging fruit type thing of pettiness.
Charlie, go ahead, Anthea. I'm
so,
sorry.
Charlie, if this behavior comes up over and over again, how do you broach that? Because that's gonna now become a little bit defensive if I come in and say, "Listen, I'm trying to have a relationship with you. We're trying to have a conversation, but every time this happens, this is what you do." Now it's coming into a point of criticism.
Right. Because after a while you start sounding like you just making
You're
the
badgering.
right. And so for me
Right.
now, I'm at a point where I guess my last relationship was 4 years ago, right before COVID. I'm When I got out of the relationship, it was because of that, but that was after being in. It was 4 years, and it was patience. Me having patience of trying to see if the person was going to come through. Person never came through, and so I advised the person. I said, you know what? Maybe you need to get help because I don't know what to do, and it's not working for me. So
You gave it 4 years? Wow.
it was other good stuff that was about the relationship. That was the one stickling point where I saw the person never wanted to grow, and the person didn't want to, you know, go past that. And then there was some truth there was. I found out things 3 years, 4 years in. I was going through a lot too. I was going through a lot of death. I had like 4 major people in my life die in 18 months. So
Damn.
a lot of it was my mom, my dad, my sister, my aunt.
Right.
So
Ooh,
a
wow.
lot of it at that time too was I was so
Yeah.
So
that
so
when
I
I
have
was
I
trying
have
to
a
Are we still dealing with this? 3 years.
Right.
Dealing with this? Like you ain't.
So when you guys are having your own self-reflection moments in your relationships, and you're trying to get some clarifying questions from your partner, what is your approach? What has been your approach?
Good question.
Is that to the panel, or are you asking
That's
someone?
to the panel.
So
I don't know who else I'm talking to. Go ahead, Lenny.
I've gotten to the point where I'm like, if there's something that's bothering me or I need answers to, I'm like, look, let me ask you something. Because there's never a good time to ask tough questions. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You just gotta get it. So I'm pretty much like, look, what's the deal? Talk to me about this. Explain this. What do you think? What's your thoughts on this? And I just pretty much phrase the question in a manner that allows her to walk into the door, sit down, and communicate. Right? If you choose not to do that, to me, that's saying that you're afraid of it. You're afraid of confrontation. You're afraid of having difficult conversations. And I just make a mental note. It's like, okay, I've asked you this several times, and you're not doing anything. You're not even asking me why I'm asking these questions. To me, that's a red flag. That's a flag. I can't continue to ask you the same things that's clearly bothering me and is a stickler for me, and you choose not to address it.
I have a horse in my backyard, so I asked about 3 times. And
you got a what?
I'm joking. I said I have a horse.
I was like, you got a what in your backyard?
A horse. I
was like, does that mean you got a big butt?
Not.
What you doing over there with your pole?
Like a horse.
Okay.
Shit.
I'm like,
Wait. No, I was like, I've been called a runner. That's what I'm laughing because I'm thinking about how I just jump on the horse and just ride away when I don't get.
So Renee, when you get into those conversations of difficulty and somebody's broaching you, there's something on your mind that's making you uncomfortable. How do you broach it? How do you approach it? Or if it's even brought to your attention?
So I think I can honestly say I don't even think I can count on like 2 hands fully how many difficult conversations I've had, right? But I'm trying to think of one, like if I had one, I'm usually, if I see that the person is unable to relate or understand where I'm coming from, I'm
going with that runner, Ronette. They got your track shoes and all. Julia's like, girl,
I usually come up with
Nike sponsor. Nike, please come in.
I usually come up with like a creative way of getting them to understand my take on it, so it can open up the door to the conversation in a different direction. So I use a lot of stories from other situations. I'm like, you know what happened? Pop, 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 pop. And then that is, I can honestly say I really don't deal with too many difficult conversations.
But you don't own it, Renee. Are you not owning things? Because that's what I'm hearing.
Because I don't have a lot
about what I'm trying to say. Charlie, you know what I'm saying, don't you?
No. Renee wants to know what you're saying, because a difficult conversation about if you're doing something I don't like, I have not really had a conversation too many where a person is like insistent on staying with something I don't like. And if it's that bothersome to me where I have to address it, then I'm out. I'm not in a situation where I have to stick it out. Like I've had relationships, but I haven't been married where I got to be like, no, I got to work this out. I'm like, no, I don't have time for it. I'm out.
Relationship or not, what if it's someone who's dear to you that has an issue with whatever it is that you're doing or not doing? They say, hey, Renee, this is really bothering me. And they present it to you. Are you not going to engage?
Yeah, I'm going to engage.
No, she ain't.
Yes, no,
She's like, yeah, I'm going to engage.
no, I'm telling you.
Yeah, she
If
said that.
we
You see how she
call
said
somebody, I am workable. Listen, I am not married to too many things, right? As long as my health is not in jeopardy, as long as my life is not in jeopardy, as long as it's not going to put my child in jeopardy, as long as it's not going to send me to jail, right? Then everything else is workable to me, right? And I don't have, there's some things I have a hard line on, but I haven't had to deal with those things that I have a hard line on, not yet. Hopefully I won't, but life is life, right? I'm pretty sure I will at some point. But I honestly don't make too many things so serious that it's going to be something that's going to require like weeks and layers and all these type of conversations. And then if it is that deep to me, I told you, the horse is in the backyard. I'm out.
Wow.
But you're framing this in the situation of you not having an issue with that person. I'm saying, and I think we're all saying, there are moments in which people have issues with us, regardless of who the people are. And it's a matter that needs to be addressed because of who they are. So if they come to you and say, hey, you know, what's up with this goddamn horse in the backyard all the time?
Well, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to understand what your perspective is. And we're going to talk about it until we get it. But I'm not going to labor this thing and keep talking about it over and over again. And if I see it's bothering you, as long as it doesn't jeopardize my life and all those other things I said, I'm willing to change. Like, I'm not stuck on doing. Okay, I'm not married to a lot of these things.
I got a question for you. Mr. $20,000 man.
Mm-hmm.
You know his priorities are a little off. Have you had a question? Have you had a conversation with him about his priorities?
Yes. And this is why we are not in anything.
Did he understand? And how did you bring it to him when you brought it to him that his priorities was a little bit off?
So I don't want to say that they're off for me. They might be on point for someone else, right? So here's who I am. Here are the things that matter to me. I need you to understand, like, what you think matters to me doesn't. I brought it to his attention, but how he feels is how he feels, and that stems from the way his mom and his dad had their life, you know. And I get it. It doesn't work for me. If you see, if you're open to who I am.
Did he grow up poor?
No, actually, he didn't. He didn't. And he grew up with what he want. His father took care of his mother. His mother took care of his father. That's her man. And it was that whole kind. That's my woman. That's my man. So I think that is how he wants his life to be. They lived a really nice life.
But he's buying $1,200 shoes, and you're saying that his priorities are off because
they're off for me.
Okay.
Because of the cost of the shoes, or because he can't demonstrate, or he hasn't demonstrated that he can do some of the other things that you would want him to do that shows you can do what you're talking about doing with me.
So how do I answer?
What is it about $20,000 man that you ain't with him? What is it?
Because he ain't a $50,000 man yet.
Well, it's really he kind of pulled the string on it, and he pulled the string on it on this because his thing is he literally travels every month, right? And at least 4 times a year he travels out of the country to different countries, right? And there's this whole the material part of it, the money part of it, everything, and he does not want to not be able to do those things. And he wants to be married, do those things, and still be able to have his wife do all these extra things for his wife, instead of sort of like saying, okay, let me cut the budget down a little bit. Let me make this all work. She works, I work. Let's try to figure this out. He doesn't want me to have to work at all. If I work, it's because I want to, not because I have to. That's what he wants. So this is why we couldn't, it's just, it wasn't working. But
so it's more about you than about him.
Right.
How so? Because
no. I mean, what I say is okay. This is another show.
It is another show because we're getting off. But you know what, Charlie? It really is.
Are we in after hours? Are we in
Hold
after
on.
hours?
Hold on, we do have the after hours, but I want to finish this really quick because it really isn't the other show, because I think you're seeing something that Renee may not be aware of.
Okay,
Yeah.
like what?
Because I mean, I see a lot. I could go in. I mean, I can.
We're gonna take this into the after party.
Yeah.
I feel like calling him to the after party, but he got a oh Lord.
You got his number. Go ahead and do it.
Call him in, Ronnie. We need to get to the bottom of this. Call him in.
Y'all coming to the after party because this is what we're talking about.
Right.
This is a prime example of that.
Oh my
Call
God.
him and the horse into the after party. Let's have a conversation.
He's probably sleeping. But
Look, stay on the. Call him. Put him on speakerphone right now. Call him.
hold on.
I cannot with y'all. We getting kicked off. Corey, you're gonna come into the after party for 5 minutes. I know you gotta go work out. Listen, this needs to be a part 2 because we're doing reflection all month, y'all. This is just the beginning. We really scratched the surface. It was good. Y'all went there. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Renee. And of course, thank you, Sunshine. We will see y'all next week. It was everything. Come into the after party if you're not in the group. And we're gonna ask these questions. We want y'all to really answer these questions. So we'll talk more about questions.
$20,000 man is gonna be.
Till the next time, y'all. Be safe.
All right. Thank you.
Join Stacked After Hours, the spot, where grown men and women gather to have candid, also honest discussions about the state of life, love, and more. The spot is a hybrid of in-person and weekly virtual gatherings. Join our Facebook group and answer our daily questions. Subscribe to our YouTube for our weekly live talk shows and join us on Zoom for our talk show after parties for lively conversations with other opinionated, grown, and sexy professionals. Just search, like, follow, and subscribe to Stack After Hours on Facebook groups and YouTube. Also like and follow our brand pages at Be Stacked Wellness on Facebook and IG. So wherever you are, at home or abroad, pull out your laptop, tablet, or smartphone and join in the conversation with the members of Stacked After Hours, the spot by Be Stacked Wellness. See you there.
As you know, and if you are new to the Stacked family, we always keep our conversations lit and enlightening.